All right, so here at Think Inc., we have two main dryers that we use. Standing aside away from the hat dryer, the two that we have a Hicks dryer, which is a 24-inch belt, and we have an Anatol dryer, which is a 36-inch belt. And then their belt length is also different. The Hicks dryer was the first dryer I had, and this thing runs great. Starting it up and running it, both of them have a cord laying in front on the belt. We lay that in front because we want to make sure we turn on the exhaust fans, the booster fans, to get any exhaust out of the building. So we always lay those on front before we leave for the day and after we shut down the dryers. So we'll start with the Hicks. This one is more used for the manual press, obviously, but also for specialized garments. Things that are real puffy, big jackets, that kind of stuff. Odd products that may be more heat sensitive. Different things that we want to have a little more control. And one of the things that this has that the other dryer doesn't have is that it has an airflow system that's in there that circulates the air a little bit better, which is better for curing especially odd items. So when we start up this dryer, we plug it in, plug that in first. We'll come over here and we'll hit power. All right. These are circuit breakers to turn on the blower, the conveyor, all that kind of stuff, along with heat circuit breakers. We leave all that alone. We don't do anything with this. This is the time that it takes to run through the dryer, which is we've got set at about 100 or 1 minute 20 seconds. The airspeed, I've got a little mark here between the 2 and the 3, so it's about 2.5. We leave it there. Sometimes we may crank it up for jackets and go between 4 or 5 just to get the air going around there and get a good cure. But typically we leave it at 2.5. The alarm goes off if it's out of range, out of temperature range, which is good, but it can be annoying at the same time. We just press it to clear it, and hopefully the dryer will go in range. That usually happens if at the start and at the end of the run, or if you take a break and there's a gap on the belt. So that might go off. These are the heaters and relays. All lights should be working. Either these go on or these go on. If one of these lights are out, then we've got a heat panel that's not working. So we start this up. This is set for 1 minute and 20 seconds to go from the start of the heat chamber to the end of the heat chamber. Okay. That's typically what you need for Plastisol ink. So it's on a low temp. So we reset the alarm. We're going to go function. That's the temperature that it's set at, 32 degrees. We crank it all the way down all the time at night. We're going to crank this up to, and we just hold it down, hopefully, and it'll start cranking up. Hit that alarm again, it's out of range. And we'll take this up to about 340 degrees, right there. After that, nope, that's 390, sorry. Don't want to do that. All right, 340, and then I'm going to hit function again, which tells me what the current temperature of the dryer is. So we're going to wait for that to get up to temperature. It tells you that it's below temperature right now, that the alarm should be sounding. But then this will give me a constant reading of what the temperature is inside the dryer. The nice thing about this dryer is that the temperature probe is at belt level. So I know at the level of the belt what the temperature is in that dryer, and that's what this is regulating. Everything's working, heaters are all on. When they kick off, when they get in range, the relays these lights will go on, and then these will kick on every time the heater comes on. So we've got 3 heater panels on. If one of these lights is out, then we got a problem with the heater panel. That's about all you need to know for this. We just work in reverse order. When we go to shut it down, we'll hit function. It'll show the current, the temp that we had it set. We're gonna hold the down arrow button. My relay's getting old here, we might need to change it soon. Get that down to 32 degrees, that way I know it's gonna go down to temp. I'll hit function again. It tells me the temperature of the belt. And typically at 340 degrees, we don't shut this down until it gets to about 200 degrees. Then we'll shut that down, unplug the exhaust, which I forgot to do, and that does a nice job. Now, there are intake heights that we got to be careful of. We don't want to go up and touching the baffles here. We want to keep that clear. Otherwise, this is a slower dryer, but it's a good dryer. The Anatol is a little wider, which is nice because you can lay things out a little bit better. Sweatshirts fit nicer in here. I've never run a jacket through here. This one gets hot. So we would plug this in. I'll do that now so I don't forget. Turn it on. Hit the heat. And this is, right now, it's at 67 degrees. So it's cold. We don't have to set anything else. This will come up to temperature. This is the select temperature that we would push if we wanted to make a change and then toggle this up or down. Right now it's set at 760 degrees. The difference about that is this temperature probe that tells the temperature is at the top of the dryer where the heating elements are. So it's a totally different reading than what the Hicks dryer is. The problem with that is if I need to change it because of a temperature sensitive product or a type of ink, I have to do a lot of guesswork and a lot of testing to make sure that's going to work. Whereas the other one, I can set it right to temperature and it'll work the way it's supposed to. So that's the difference on this. So this is calibrated at 760 degrees. The belt is almost down to the minimum. I've got it marked on here that this should run through from start to finish at 37 seconds. If it's too fast, it's not going to cure. If it's too slow, you run the risk of starting to scorch the shirts. You'll notice that, especially on the white shirts or fluorescent shirts. They'll get real dark. The white shirts will start to burn, and you'll need to use scorch out and some other stuff to try to fix that. So you'll want to, a lot of times I'll just put something on the belt, a piece of tape or shirt, mark it, time it, make sure it's adjusted properly, and just tweak that just a little bit. But sometimes this gets bumped. So you want to check the belt speed occasionally, make sure that is on target. The other thing is, since this doesn't have relays telling me if there's a heat panel out or not, we'll never know if there's a panel out. And that's been a problem off and on where some of the ceramic tiles in here go out. So we use a heat gun that we'll use on here that we want to get the heat about 3 or 4 inches in on the product. Right, and that which would give you the temperature. You don't need to stick it in there, but you don't want to get it as it comes out. You want to get about 3 or 4 inches just before it comes out of the belt and get an accurate temperature. And it should be around at least 320 degrees, preferably about 330, maybe just a couple degrees higher. But too much more, you'll start to scorch it. But that's something you'll want to constantly check every once in a while just to make sure, because the worst thing you can have happen is you start running shirts through here for weeks or months and find out that heating elements have been out and everyone's coming back saying that their shirts are washing out. So the cool down on this then is just real simple. We cool that down. I like to get this down to under 600 degrees or less before we crank that off and put this in back on the belt. Now, this one has a smaller gate to get in and out. We can adjust that. The front is a little bit lower than the back end because I want to make sure that it has to fit through here. If this is higher and the back end is lower, then it's going to hit on the back side and smear the hot ink. So we keep this relatively low because this is really hot. It's going to be temperature sensitive to anything that's peaking or not folded flat. So we want to make sure always, on this dryer especially, that all the product is flat. Sleeves should not be sticking up. Corners of the shirt should not be sticking up because of the heat that's on this. Otherwise, this dryer here will keep up with 2 people on the press, someone putting on, someone taking off, and it'll keep up with 800 to 1,000 shirts an hour, depending on the size of the print and how well the person pulling can lay these out and stack them in there. Otherwise, that's about all for the dryers. Take care of them, check them once in a while, and you should be good.